Let's be honest. If you're in your mid-40s to late 50s, you can't afford to figure this out later. There's no extra decade sitting out there to fix your mistakes, no reset button. And that's where this starts to feel real. Because the question isn't, can I retire early someday? It's, what actually moves the needle from here? Because not everything does. And in this video, we're going to walk through the 5 things that actually accelerated our path to early retirement. Now, before we jump in, we're not financial advisors, and we didn't do this perfectly. We made mistakes, we made adjustments, we changed course, and we learned along the way. And what we did do, we focused on what actually mattered and ignored what didn't. Because once you focus on the right things, things can move faster than you expect. So let's start with the first one, because without this, everything else falls apart. Number 1 is make a plan. At some point, you have to stop thinking about retirement and actually decide what you want it to look like. Not in a vague way, but in a real, specific way. So grab a notebook and grab a pen. You're going to want to write this stuff down and keep it someplace where you're going to see it every day. And on that, you're going to have, when do you want to stop working? What will your normal day look like? And what does that life actually cost? Because if you don't answer those questions, you're not building a plan. You're just hoping that it works out. And hope is not a strategy, especially when your time is limited. For us, this was the turning point. We had a plan, we stopped drifting, and started making decisions that actually moved us forward. And that leads directly into the second one, because this is where most people get stuck. Number 2 is your lifestyle mindset shift. You can have a plan, but if your lifestyle is pulling in the opposite direction, you're not going to get there. This is where we had to take a hard look, not at our income, but at our habits, what we were spending, what we thought we needed, like the going out for coffee every day, or the lunches 3 or 4 times a week, and the expensive gym membership, versus what actually mattered. And over time, we started shifting from a lifestyle of consumption to a lifestyle of intention. Not cutting everything out, not living small, but being honest about what added value and what didn't. Because every dollar that doesn't need to be spent is a dollar that can buy back your time. And once that clicked, the next move became very clear. Number 3 is aggressively paying off your debt to free your future. Because debt doesn't just cost you interest, it costs you flexibility. And in early retirement, flexibility is everything. Because when your income is already committed with car payments, credit cards, loans, you don't have control. You have obligations. And that's the part that keeps people working longer than they planned. So for us, this was a major shift, not because the math suddenly changed, but because our options did. And once that debt was gone, our monthly expenses dropped, our stress dropped, and for the first time, we could actually see a path forward. Because when your money is no longer spoken for, you finally get to decide what it does. And that's when things really started to accelerate. Number 4 is save aggressively to build your bridge. This is where the timeline changes, because most people are told to just save 10%. And if you follow that path, you'll probably be fine at 65. But if you're in your 40s or your 50s and you want something different, that pace isn't going to get you there. We had to flip the script. So instead of saving what was left over, we made savings the priority. And there were years where that number wasn't 10%. It was more like 30, 40, even pushing 60% for a few of those years. Now, of course, it's not forever, but during the years that mattered the most, we became ninja savers. Because this is what creates momentum. And this is where your bridge account starts to take shape. This is the money that carries you from the day that you stop working until your retirement accounts or Social Security kick in. And once that bridge starts growing, something changes. It stops feeling like a dream and starts feeling real. But none of this works without the final piece. Number 5 is know your number. Remove the guesswork. At some point, you have to stop guessing and figure out what your life actually costs. Not a generic number that you saw on the internet, not what someone else says that you need, but your number. What does it take you to live your life, month to month and year to year? Because once you know that, everything else becomes clearer. How much you need saved, how long your bridge has to last, and what adjustments you can make. And this is where confidence starts to replace the fear, because uncertainty creates stress, but clarity creates control. Now let's bring this all together. Grab your pen and paper and write it down. And when you put these 5 things together, you stop feeling stuck. You stop wondering if it's too late, and you start seeing a path. Now, it's not always a perfect path, and it's definitely not an easy one, but a real one. And if you're in your 40s and 50s right now, that's what matters most. A real path forward. We didn't have everything figured out when we started. We made some mistakes, but we knew we wanted our time back. And step by step, these were the things that moved us closer. Not overnight, but faster than the traditional way. Now don't try to do all 5 at once. Start with 1, just 1. Because progress doesn't come from doing everything perfectly, it comes from getting started. And if you want to see how we're actually using our bridge account and structuring this in real life, make sure you subscribe, because that's exactly what we share here. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Are you on your way, or are you just starting your journey? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.